Okay, welcome back. So before we start adding anything else to our game, let's just kind of dive into setting up our game environment first. So I want to make sure that you guys aren't caught by surprise when you hit the play button. So when I hit the play button, it's going to pop up, assuming that you haven't clicked this yet, it's going to pop up, no main scene has ever been defined. Select one. We want to make sure that we are in the main scene because this is going to be the main scene where we test everything. So I'm going to choose select current. And then you'll see that nothing happens. So we don't have a camera. That's the main problem here, is that since we don't have a camera, the game isn't actually able to render anything. So let's get out of this. And I'm going to go over to main, and I'm just going to hit Control A, add a camera 3D. And there we go. Now let's move it back a little bit just so that way it's not inside the player character. Let's hit play again. And there we go. Now kind of dark. We can't control the ball. Nothing really happens when we use the arrow keys or W, A, S, and D. We have to fix that. So what's the deal? Why doesn't it look like how it does in the preview? Well, you'll see up here that we have toggle preview sunlight and toggle preview environment. Now if we turn both of those off, it looks exactly like how it does when we hit the play button. The way that we can get those in our actual scene, which means that they're going to be added to our scene list over here, is we have to click this drop down menu, this little three dots over here, and go add sun to scene. There we go, and you'll see it added a directional light 3D. And then we also want to do add environment to scene. And there we go. And now let's see what happens when we hit the play button. And there we go. So now it's lit up. We have our kind of skybox back here. Still no controls, but our ground and our ball is appearing. So that is good to go. In our main scene, we should have our player, our marble, our camera, our platform, and our environment and our sun. So what else do we want to do? So let's add movement to our player. This is going to be a pivotal moment in our game development journey. We're going to actually be able to control our player character. It's going to be great. So what we want to do is we want to add a script to the player node. So let's go back to our player scene and let's add a script. And I'm going to choose this script button right up here. And I'm going to make sure that I'm in the scripts folder. So scripts and player.gd. This is good. Okay, great. So you'll see that there's kind of some default template code for us. We don't really have to worry about that so much just yet, but I'm going to leave it as is. Well, let's think of actually what we need for our marble. We need to think of the directions it can move in, which is going to be front, back, left, and right, and then also the speed that it's going to move at. So I'm going to create two new variables here. I'm going to do var marble speed equals 25. I'm going to do var move direction equals vector 3.
Hello, and welcome to our little side section here about exploring variables and Vector 3 in Godot. Variables are fundamental to programming. They're basically these little custom labels. You're essentially taking a string of words or a single word and assigning a value to it. Now that value could be a number, the value could be another variable. They're kind of like custom labeled boxes, and the point of variables is to neatly store and categorize data. Vector 3 represents arrows in space that denote position, direction, and speed, and it's broken down into an x-axis, a y-axis, and a z-axis in our game's environment. Now, as we venture into these topics, I want you to remember that they can be complex and might feel overwhelming at first, and that's completely okay. If it doesn't click right away, do not worry at all. Feel free to use the code as it's provided. It's perfectly fine to copy and paste and tweak as needed. The understanding of these concepts will deepen over time with practice and application. The aim here is to empower you to create something exciting and enjoyable. So if the details of variables in Vector 3s seem intricate now, just remember that every expert was once a beginner. Our goal is not to just understand every detail immediately, but it's about embarking on the journey of creating a fun and engaging game.
But we are going to configure our input actions. So we need to go to Project Settings, Input Map. Okay, so now we have our input map, but we need to actually create some actions. So let's type in move forward, and then I'm going to hit the plus button. And what button do we want to press for forward? I'm going to do WASD, so W for forward. Then I'm going to do move left, make that A. I'm going to do move right and enter, make that D. And then I'm going to do move backward, make that S. Okay, very cool. So these are all of our controls so far. I'm going to hit close, and then what we want to do is, okay, so here in this process function, this is going to be where we put our controls, because this function is going to be called every frame. So let's do if input.is action pressed move forward. Make sure that the control that you're calling is in quotes. And then what we're going to do is we are going to do force.x plus equals 1. Let's see here. Oh, but we haven't defined what force is, so we have to do that. So let's go back up here. Or actually, no, sorry. Up in here, let's just define force as a vector 3. Basically meaning it's going to be a direction of some kind. So let's see if that works now. So I'm going to hit W, and it doesn't work just yet. Why is that? Well, we actually need to add another line of code. If force.length apply force.normalized.
We'll start with force check. So this is going to be our marbles cue to start rolling. So when force.length is greater than 0, there's a force that will get the marble's attention. It means that our marble needs to actually start moving. Normalization. Think of this as the speed regulator for our marble. A normalized vector ensures that our marble's velocity has a consistent length of 1 unit, meaning that our marble will move at a set speed that we want regardless of direction. It's the key to preventing our marble from just rolling at an increasing speed forever. Next is marble speed times delta. The delta is basically a snapshot of time, specifically the time that it took for your PC to draw the last frame. So if our game is going at 60 frames a second, the delta would be 1/60th of a second. So by multiplying our marble speed by this tiny slice of time, we make sure that our game keeps a steady tempo. And lastly is vector 3.0. This is basically just the force that keeps our marble rolling in line.
Okay, so I've noticed a problem with some of the code that I've put in here, namely that when I hit play and I hit W, which is my move forward button, the marble moves to the right. Why is that? Well, if we go into the 3D space here, you'll see that it's force.x plus 1, and the x-axis is increasing when I move to the right. You can see in that bottom left corner that the x value is getting bigger as I move the marble to the right. So how do I fix that? Well, for now, I'm going to kind of cheat it, and I'm just going to rotate the camera 90 degrees. So depending on which way you need your marble to roll, I'm just going to move the I'm going to move the camera 90 degrees, so that way forward is now this way. So when I hit play again and I hit move forward, my marble is now going forward. Do it one more time. So if input is action pressed, move backward, colon, force dot x minus equals 1. So that way it's constantly reducing the x-axis. And you'll see it like that. Very cool. Okay. And now let's do move left. And now let's see. So if it's force.x for forward and backward, what is it going to be for left and right? Well, let's go over here. Okay, so it's the z-axis. The blue arrow is the z-axis. And if we want left to be this way, it means that it's going to be moving in the negative z-axis. And if we want it to move right, it's going to be moving in the positive z-axis. Again, the way that I know that is by looking in the bottom left corner where it says translating, and you'll see that the z-axis, the third number, gets bigger when we move it to the right, and the z-axis gets smaller when we move it to the left. Okay, so let's go back to the script. So it's going to be force.z plus equals 1. And I'm going to do the same thing for the right. So if input is action pressed, move right, force.z minus equals 1. There we go. Plus equals 1. And there we go. So our marble is rolling, albeit slowly, but it is rolling. Okay, very cool. So what we're going to do in the next lesson is we are going to delve into more gameplay elements. So keep experimenting, and I'll see you in the next lesson.